of the mindset that the pie is not finite. You can grow the pie and all the pieces get bigger, right? And I'm not of the mentality, if I don't take it, then somebody else will. It's like, no, let's all grow together. Let's all rise together. And then let's turn around and bring up more people behind us.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right? Podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Hello, the writersons.
Doing it writers.
Doing it right, Writerson, Inspire Herds. Hi.
Hi, how are you? How are you doing, girl?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're here.
Yes.
You're here. You showed up. You have makeup on. You have earrings. And I love that for you. I think that's a form of self-care for this time for you right now, right?
I mean, I didn't do my full makeup. I just did enough to get by, and the earrings were sitting on my desk. So we're going to dress this ponytail right up. And well, gosh, we're going to include our guests. We're going to get right into it because we want to talk about day to night. But first, let me tell you who we have here. Elizabeth Convery. Did I say it right? I should have practiced.
That's
Convery. Okay. I should have practiced. My apologies. I was just calling you Elizabeth. We didn't go all the way to last names because I skip right to first name basis. Elizabeth is an entrepreneur, a Navy wife. Thank you for your service. Mother of two, and a woman for women, which I love. She embodies the principles of hospitality, making helping others a central part of her lifestyle. Elizabeth manages an 11-person team at Compass in Philadelphia and coaches women to come into their own confidence, to transform their mindset, to advance their career on their own terms. Oh, give it to me, girl. But first,
oh my God.
Day to night. Okay.
Let's just let me set the scene for our listeners who are not the watchers on YouTube. So first of all, Elizabeth looks so cute right now, and she's got this cute little shirt dress on. And I was like, oh my God, you look so cute. And you said what? What did you say, Elizabeth?
I thanked you. And then I actually had a blazer on over this, and I felt it was too formal for our conversation, which prompted us to talk about my entire outfit today. So I live in Washington, D.C. My office is in Philadelphia. My business is in Philadelphia. Talk about Navy wife madness. I live on a track train. So this morning, I'm getting on a 7:40 a.m. train, and I have to be dressed for an entire day of meetings, this podcast, I have all these other things happening. And my evening ends with a charity dinner for St. Joe's, which I support, where I went for undergrad. And it's one of these fancy places, business attire. And I'm thinking, packing an overnight bag to change. So how am I going to make all of this work? So hence my shiny, I think it's a polyester blend, button-down dress with a little belt, and I've got wedge sandals on that are open toe, which I was saying is maybe a little racy for day meetings, but my toes are done, so that works. And I've got blazer, a little linen blazer on the top to just bring business into the day, but later I will remove it, and I should really, Cheryl, get some long dangly earrings to take the look over the edge.
Oh my God.
I bet you could DoorDash
those earrings. Yeah.
I bet you could. So this was so funny because you were talking about this, and then I had this conversation earlier today with my new director of ops, which I'm so pumped about. And we were talking about how this 2 weekends from now, I'm going to have 2 open houses that I have to do. I've got 47 soccer games and whatever. And then I'm going to this really fancy event at the end of the night. And I have to go from the last open house straight to this event. And I was like, this is the literal only time in my life where all of those articles from 17 magazine that I read in 1997, where they tell you how to take your outfit from day to night, apply. This is the first time.
Totally. You are
30
so
years.
on it. And we're so lucky though, because fashion today allows us to like have permission to wear chunky heels and red shoes, which is like the best way to go from day to night when you're a
Yeah.
realtor, because you have to be able to walk everywhere. You know, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we're not in the
Everywhere.
stiletto heel era anymore.
I mean, I do wear I am.
But you're
I
not
am
wearing
in that
them
era.
on showings. No way.
No. And inevitably, anytime I wear a heel to a showing, which I do love, I love a heel. My clients are like, "Let's go look in the cellar," and I'm like, "I didn't even know this. Like, are you sure this house even has a cellar?" Like,
Oh yeah. Or can we go into the backyard and walk the lot?
yeah,
And
like walk.
Yesterday I
Oh my
showed 20
God.
acre parcel, and I keep a pair of boots in my car for the
Smart.
occasion.
That
Yeah.
is smart.
It
As you
happens a
should.
lot here. I need a 17 article on how to go from open house to softball game, or from softball game to open house, because that's happening a lot more than, or like soccer to open house. That's happening a lot more than day to night for me. I'm like clocked off at 8 o'clock. You people are way cooler than me.
No, so I actually did that yesterday. I went from work to the soccer field. But the day started in DC at like 65 degrees, but by the time my son was playing soccer, it was about 82. And I'm in these like high-waisted jeans and this like very lovely like button-down shirt and with a pair of like fashion sneakers. I'm standing on this field and I'm like, why was this a good idea? These jeans,
The
sweating, hot mess.
inevitably, I show up to a sporting event way overdressed, and everybody is like, "What are you doing? You're so embarrassing." And I'm like, I don't. I got showings. I got to this, and then I got to go to a thing, and I'm like, I can't. What are we doing here?
I think this is a good business tip, actually. So everybody listen. I find that when I arrive to a child event dressed for work, it sparks a lot of questions about, oh, what do you do?
Absolutely.
And then you have this opportunity to be like, look what an involved mom I am. And I'm super slaying it at work.
Oh.
So,
I agree.
Oh, yes.
Elizabeth, we'll give you that one for free for your coaching clients. Okay, you can take that as a tip.
just send us some listeners, okay?
So you not only are you a Navy wife and a complete fashionista, but like tell us what you are also doing and tell us everything about you, because you and I had our pre-recording conversation and I left feeling like you are probably one of the coolest ladies I've ever met. So
likewise, and I have to tell you, Colleen, I was so sad to jump off our call. Like we scheduled this like 15-minute check-in, but it happened to be, Cheryl, so you know, it happened to be when my kids were on spring break. And my daughter, who's 2, was down for her nap. And as we're like continuing to chat, I'm hearing her in the background. And she's like, Mommy. And I felt so badly because I would have talked to you for like a solid hour. I think we were having a ton of fun. At least I was.
Likewise.
Well, now I have FOMO. I did get a text as soon as it was over that said, oh my God, you're going to love her. So I'm really excited.
Let's
tell
you a little bit about me. I've been in real estate my entire career. June will be 20 years in real estate.
Wow. So you started when you were like 10.
You are so kind.
I know.
I drink a lot of water. It's good skincare. So I started when I was 22 in commercial real estate. Right out of the gate, I was in it for 8 years. I went to grad school. And then I transitioned to selling hotels, which is kind of interesting. I was hotels in New York, but I ultimately was very unhappy. I had this super glamorous job. I always wanted to live in New York City. I was doing it in my late 20s, and I just wasn't excited about my career at all. And I had read that when you're in corporate America, you should want to become your boss, right? And your boss becomes your boss, and that's natural career progression. And for me, I just never saw that path. Like I didn't want to become my boss. And so that really prompted me to make a lot of decisions. I was also turning 30 at the time. I laugh now in my 40s, like the crisis of turning 30.
Oh my God.
That's how I got into residential real estate. I knew I wanted to stay in real estate, but I really wanted to help people. So I came back to Philly, which is where I'm from, started a boutique brokerage like a crazy person. I just like went out of the gate, got a broker's license. My first agent on my team was my dad. He came out of retirement to help me build my business. Fast forward, we were the first independent brokerage to partner with Compass when they came to Philadelphia. So I'm one of the founding principals here. I'm a huge fan of Compass. But then I fell in love with a man in the Navy. And as you know, a real estate business is very geographically focused and a Navy life is not. So I wanted to figure out how to still be relevant without selling real estate. And that's when I got into coaching. First, by starting coaching my team one-on-one, empowering. I have all women on my team except for one man who is very open-minded to all of the ladies here.
That one man. I love when I see these all-women teams and there's like one guy on the team and you're like, that dude knows what's up.
Oh, absolutely. He does. He is so amazing. But so I wanted to teach my team how to build their own books of businesses, how to really come into their confidence, their definition of success. And fast forward, I created a separate coaching company 2 years ago to do more and more, to help more and more women do that.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's my nutshell. I have 2 small kids who are the joy of my life, Jack, who is 5, and Cece, who is 2.
Oh my God. I also have a Jack and he is 6, almost 7.
I had a Jack, but he had 4 legs.
Oh, you did. And
it also is a good name for a dog. Yes,
it is. And he ran off.
We lost Jack.
Came
home. It was awful.
That time.
So when we were talking, Elizabeth, like one of the things that I think is so different about what you do as a team lead, and for those of you who are not in real estate, people don't understand the team structure in real estate. We'll break it down quickly for them, or you break it down quickly for them. Like, what does a team lead traditionally do, and how is that structured? Because I know, like, even when I launched my team here recently, people are like, "So what are you doing? Like, are you starting a new business? Are you a brokerage?" And I'm like, no, it's a real estate team. So tell us a little bit about just the foundation of what that is.
Yeah. So typically, I think typical teams consist of the team lead, who is usually the rainmaker, right? They have the biggest book of business, and then they need support to, I think a lot of teams start this way. They need support to continue to grow the team lead's business. So usually the first hire is an admin, director of ops, as you continue to, to your point of building your own business, building your own team out. And then you hire more and more agents who can sort of run with your leads as the team lead, and then eventually, build their own books of business. That's traditionally, I think, how a team works. I think I'm rare in that I don't sell as well.
Yeah. And I think traditionally a team lead, and so very transparently, every agent under a team lead gives a cut to the team lead, right? I think that's something people don't understand, but the team lead is supposed to give some kind of support, right? Whether it's coaching or marketing or whatever. But what I love that you've done is that, and here's my other point, is a lot of teams are very focused on the team lead, right? Like the team lead is the star, to your point, right? Like they're the rainmaker, they're the star. And you have taken the time and the energy and the focus to invest in your agents so that they can build their own business, right? So that they can be independent under this umbrella. And I think that's the type of real estate I want to see in the future. I think this old school type of real estate where there's one big person at the top whose name is on everything, and then it ultimately, I don't know. I love the concept that you're doing, and I love the way that you're teaching. So talk to us a little bit about, like, when you say you started coaching your agents one-on-one, like what did that look like for you?
I'm of the mindset that the pie is not finite. You can grow the pie and all the pieces get bigger, right? And I'm not of the mentality, if I don't take it, then somebody else will. It's like, no, let's all grow together. Let's all rise together. And then let's turn around and bring up more people behind us. And that's sort of the entire concept of my team. I became a coach completely by accident. So I'll share a story.
Yeah.
So it is March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020. We're living in Philadelphia. Our son Jack was born November of 2019. So he's like a peanut. He's 4 months old. My husband Chip was stationed at the Naval War College up in Rhode Island. It's in Newport, Rhode Island. We had set up an apartment for him up there that was on an Amtrak line so that he could come home on the weekends to Philadelphia, and Jack and I could go up to Newport and sort of go back and forth. So that was the intention. The weekend that we come back, Jack and I come back, Chip starts school, looked like March 16th. We got locked down. The baby and I were locked down in Philadelphia, and Chip was locked down in Newport.
Oh my God, Elizabeth.
I myself with a 4-month-old child. And in the state of Pennsylvania, where my business is based, we were deemed by the governor, we're one of, I think, only 2 states where real estate was non-essential.
Oh,
We weren't allowed to show houses. We weren't allowed to do anything. So
my
I'm
God.
working with my coach at the time. I was a brand new coach at the time. I've still been with her now for 5 years. And I said, I don't know what I need to do, but I am never not going to be with my husband again. Never. I will never live apart from him again. I can't have this. This is terrifying. And so I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this. My entire business is here.
Yeah.
And she said, well, how comfortable are you with coaching? I said, I don't know a thing about coaching other than I've always had a coach. I've hired coaches forever. And she said, okay, we're going to teach you how to coach your team so that they can run your business and build their own businesses so that you can stay relevant and you can live anywhere you want to live. She said, and it is not going to be easy and it's not going to happen overnight. And it took me about 2 years to really be able to come into my confidence as a coach, to build the team in the way that I wanted to see it built, meaning we have a common mission. We have shared core values, but each of the women and one man on the team are building their own businesses within that realm. And they're supporting one another and caring for one another. And so that's how I got into coaching completely by accident. Found out that I absolutely loved it. I found you do sense, I mean, you guys are in the business. You know that sense when you take a first-time home buyer through the house, you know they're going to buy. You know that feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're like, oh, this is it. I know it's it. Let's wait for to find out too. And it's that, for me, it's always been that satisfaction of like, I'm so happy that they're doing this. I now have that same feeling when I see the women who I coach come into their own and realize that level of success. And so I think that makes me a unique team lead. In that last year, I sold 6 houses myself.
Yeah.
Thanks. And I did that because I think it makes me a better coach, that I'm on the ground and I can relate to these crazy market conditions. But this year, my team is holding me that I can only sell 4. That's it.
But you've already done that, right? You told me you're already done.
Now I'm so bored because I'm like, I want to sell more. I love it. They're like, stop it, Elizabeth. You said you were going to focus on coaching. You've got it. You can't be selling. So it's interesting.
You're building, or you have the exact model that I'm building.
Yeah,
for my team. It's
my God. It's so refreshing.
I want everybody to rise and do their own thing, and I want to be there providing the support and then allowing the team to support each other so that also, like, you know, business owner, I don't care what kind of business you're in, but it's a 24/7 job, and I have kids and frankly don't want to work 24/7. I want to be present with them. I need to be present with them, and I want full weekends off where I don't have to look at my phone and be answering calls all the time. I want someone on call, and I want everybody else to have that luxury too. Yes. Like, I want to take a weekend and I want everybody else to take a weekend. In a perfect world, we have enough team members that like everybody works one weekend a quarter.
That's right. I'm so curious because I agree. Like when you kind of talked about your team setup, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm trying to build. And I love that so much. But, you know, you said it was like a little bit of a rough time to kind of get to this coaching. Like, talk to us a little bit about that transition of like building that and coaching. And because it's very easy for us to sit here and, you know, at least for me, I'm like, oh, well, it's so easy. Elizabeth did it, so I obviously can do it, and it's going to be great.
You all the mistakes.
Yeah, like, but talk to us about that, and talk to us about that transition of, because and maybe you're not, but I feel like you're at a point now where like you could take a weekend off if you wanted to, or you could do those things that we are all aspiring to do. But what did it take to get to that point, I guess, is what I want to know.
I mean, it took a lot. I think I had to shift my entire mindset around this business, right? So we talked a little bit about it just now. It's a 24/7 business. I had to stop believing that to be true. because it's not a 24/7 business. We allow it to be a 24/7 business because the industry has changed, has trained all of us that we have to be available, because if we're not available, they're going to go to the next realtors. There's so many realtors, right?
Right.
And that is a scarcity mentality. There isn't, again, we go back to sort of the pie. There's enough business for everyone. So I had to really understand that shift, and it took me a while. And in that same vein, if you're not selling the real estate yourself, right, you're giving it to someone else, you're obviously not making as much money as if you were to sell it yourself.
Right.
So you so the scarcity again, where it's like, will I be able to pay the bills? Will I still have what I'm used to financially? Will all the questioning? And so it was a lot of becoming what I call a mental warrior.
Oh, okay.
Building up that headspace to say there will always be more business. There will always be more opportunities. There will not be more time, right? Because time is finite, and it's 24 hours in a day. We all get the same 24 hours. How do we spend them? So for me, I had to get crystal clear on what my priorities were, because time's not all equal. It's not. An hour spent on the soccer field with your kids, in the example I gave earlier, versus an hour, at the grocery store are not the same value of the hour, right?
Right.
So in figuring out the priority of what the time was, allowed me to delegate the things that really didn't matter anymore to me. And it helped me to shift out of this idea that like only I can do it. I thought way too much credit here. Like only I can go to the grocery store.
That's a big shift. That's a
really big ego thing that like we have to do work on, is like when you realize like I'm so self-important that I'm the only one that can do this. If you look at it from that perspective, you're like, oh, wow. Or I've had this perspective with a girlfriend who was like, I hate the way my arms look. I'm never wearing a short sleeve shirt. I'm like, wow, you're giving yourself a lot of credit that a lot of people are looking and caring about your arms. Like when you can turn it on that, like just to give us all an example of like, I don't wear shorts. I don't like my legs. Like, wow, you must be really important that everybody in the room is going to be focused on your legs. Mm-hmm. Nobody gives a shit about you. Everybody's living in our own little idiosyncratic bubble of like the world. My world revolves around me. Your world revolves around you. And like, also, there's a whole saying about this. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Yes. So the way I skin the cat, sorry, PETA, is not the way Elizabeth skins the cat. And it's not the way that Colleen skins the cat.
That's exactly.
Colleen's like,
and I think
PETA's
sooner that you can realize, the sooner you can realize that other people may not do it your way, but it's still going to get done, the better time you'll have at letting go. Like in real estate, we all love to be in control. I mean, come on, let's be real. All of us want to be in control.
Oh my God, we're control freaks. The good people, the people who build businesses, I think, have a control freak characteristic, right? They want something to go the way they want because they're a psycho or they care about the outcome, right? Like I care about the outcome for my clients.
Sure.
And so I want to make sure, and my husband was talking to me, this is really interesting. My mother-in-law and my mom are coming today. This is an aside. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, we both can't pick them up. So they're going to have to Uber, but it's really difficult in the airport to get to where the Uber thing is. And they're both in their 70s. And I'm imagining my mother-in-law who probably checked a bag, rolling her. And he's like, why do you care so much about these details, about all of this? Like, just don't worry about it. And I said, because I care about people's experience.
Sure.
And I care about the experience that they're going to have that sets the tone for this trip for them. Right? Like when they arrive, because they're both coming from California and everybody thinks that we live in the farms and that's stupid and whatever. Right. And I was like, I realized in my business, I care about the experience that my clients have. And so that's why I'm so particular, I guess, about the details and all of these little details. Right. But so I have that. But I do know, and we all love Dan Sullivan here and all of his books.
Me too. Huge fan. Yep.
And I try to lean in really hard into a who, not how, and let that process happen, however it happens, as long as the result comes. And I have a situation right now where I have a big listing coming up, and we have a stager, and he's doing some renovations, and I am internally freaking out because the lights are supposed to be installed and I don't know where they are and nobody's giving me an update on the tracking. But I know that it will work out, right? Like I know it will
Have the
happen.
confidence that it will work itself out. Yes.
But that in between part, that like the care factor and the psychoticness and the attention to detail and all those things, to be able to translate that into what my friend calls like being easy breezy or like trusting the process is hard.
Oh, it's so hard. And that's part of the shift. But I think recognizing that the experience that you create for your clients, right? It can be taught
Yeah.
to your team. And if you empower them to believe in that process and believe in that experience, and you as the team lead show them the results of an experience like that,
Right.
when you delegate to them, it will be replicated. And it might not be to the perfection that you would have had in your mind.
Right.
Guardrails are in place. Those are the core values of the team, right? That's the guardrails of the experience. We always treat clients in these ways, right? We always respond to them within this period of time. These are the values that our team embodies. That when you can start to create that, because it's all in your mind as the team lead, when you can actually write it down, see what makes you unique in this business, you can teach that to others. And that really helps to pull back.
Oh my God, you must love Susie. You know Susie.
I love Susie, of course.
Who doesn't love Susan?
Who doesn't? Susan, first name only on this show.
I know the minute that you said Susie, I'm like, I know exactly who you're talking about. Give me a last name on
She
it.
says that terminology a lot too, guardrails, right? Like she says that a lot. And I think that that's really, you know, Cheryl, even we were talking briefly and you're like, oh, my systems are going to shit, but they're not, because you've got, Cheryl, like you've got the guardrails there, even in, you know, a stressful time in your life. Like you've already kind of set those things up. So in your mind, when you think things are going to shit, we're over here like, it's all good. Everything's cool. Like you're doing great.
Well,
But
I would say, I think the key to, because I've made a lot of mistakes building a team over the years, a lot of mistakes.
okay, tell us some. Tell
Yeah,
us your
so
top
I will
three.
tell you. So when I first started my brokerage, I would hire people who I like. And I thought, oh, they would be so fun to work with, right? And they were completely fun to work with. However, their vision wasn't aligned with my vision, right? They did business differently than I did. Didn't mean that they were bad people at all. We just had sort of a culture clash. And it wasn't until I was probably 4 years into the business that I started to get intentional about the people that I hired. And what I mean by that is, as realtors, I think many of us can say, my ideal client is this, right? Like you could say that. It falls out of your mouth. I love working with first-time home buyers. I love working with move-up buyers. I like, clients who are in the city, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But when it comes to hiring, I didn't have an ideal hiring avatar. Who is my ideal agent for my team? What values does that agent embody? Is this somebody who has ambition? Is this someone who is hungry? Is this someone who needs to sell real estate to make money, right? A few things that over the years I've found, like, if this person sells a house or not, it doesn't matter to them. Well, that's not really the values of our team. We all want to rise together. We're all working to be $10 million plus producers, right?
Right.
You don't
Right.
get there if you don't have the hunger or the drive. So I got very intentional about 4 years into my business of defining who that ideal client was. I knew the ideal client, but who the ideal hire was. And then really saying no. And it was hard sometimes. Sometimes I would say no to people who had a really good book of business. And as a team lead, you're like, that's nice to have.
That'd be so nice. Yeah.
But I found that by hiring the wrong people, it disrupts the entire culture that I was trying to build of, people who want to grow together, people who care for one another, people who step in so that they don't have to work every weekend, people who can, be there to pinch hit as needed for an offer, for home inspection, for whatever it might be. And that to me was the major game changer when I built my team. So as a result, my most junior person on my team has been with me. I mean, the average tenure now is over 5 years, which is rare.
Wow.
Very
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
really rare. There's a lot of turnover in our business for those of you who don't know.
intense.
I'm looking at this from like a broad business owner perspective or like even manager perspective because I see my husband go through this all the time. But like there will be times where there's a hole and you need a body to fill the hole.
Yeah.
And that is where we end up hiring just someone
Just a
instead of,
body.
to your point, like, do they meet the values? Like in any company, in any business, like, I think that having those values defined, you know, your company, your business's mission as part of the interview process would be a huge benefit to everyone.
Yes. Because culture will naturally push the wrong people out.
Yeah.
So if you
That's so true.
I've seen it happen time and time again. You know, if you are committed to that culture and people are living and breathing it and you make a bad hire, because that still happens. I mean, I'm intentional about who, you know, what the values should be, but people interview really well.
Oh
And
my God, that's tricky. It's like they interview so well, and then like 60 days in, you're like, who the hell are you?
right. Like, I don't know if I mean, that still happens. It happens.
Yeah.
But culture, many people, if, you know, if it is a bad hire, they see it quickly themselves because they don't feel that they fit in.
So what do you do in that situation? You're like, man, this guy's a slam dunk. He's such a great fit for us. And then you're 30 days in and you're like, I guess my question would be like, do you think, is it a fire quickly situation? Is it a let go quickly situation? Or is there like a coaching plan for that person? Or does it depend?
It depends. I mean, I'm a person that will, because I've gotten in trouble with this, where I keep people on because I feel badly. How many of us can
Yeah.
do that? I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, but I should. I don't know. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't get better. My husband always says bad news doesn't get better with time.
Right.
Very true. So if it's someone who, you know, to your earlier point, Colleen, like if it's somebody who could be coached through this hurdle, I'm naturally a coach, I will coach them through the hurdle. If the hurdle is like, I'm just not seeing you really lean into business development activities, what's going on here? You know, help me understand. And then we come up with some kind of a plan and they start to do the work, then we've coached them through the hurdle. But if it's clear out of the gate, and usually within 30 days, you can figure this out, that they're not the right fit and they don't want to do the work. They don't want to
Yeah.
change, grow to stay on the team. What I do is I never like to set somebody off into the wilds of real estate without helping them to get on another team or saying,
Okay.
how can I help you transition? This is really not the right fit for our team, but you're still a good agent. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great agent in another environment.
You rehome them basically.
If I can. Yeah.
We
Of course, they do something that's like egregious and you're like, all right, get out. I mean, I've had that happen to me too, where it's you have to just rip that Band-Aid off and everybody move on. But if it's just that they're not working with the team, but they have a ton of potential, I'll make calls to other team leads and see where we can find the place.
It's like letting somebody go with a letter of recommendation.
Like women for women, right? Like you have to keep pulling people behind you.
Yeah.
I'm reading your, we ask all of our guests, what are you feeling passionate about right now and what you want to talk about? And you said you're passionate about empowering women to design the lives they want.
Oh my God. Speak my language, Elizabeth.
Talk to me. How are we empowering these ladies?
Let's start with a baseline. We are in an industry that defines success for us. And they define it by our sales volume. And they define it by our number of transactions. And they define it by, you know, the GCI.
Yeah.
And the reality is this makes a lot of people feel awful about themselves.
Yes.
And so they become discouraged, right? Because if you sit in an office and you're like, this person over here has done 10 transactions this year, and I've only done 2. So I must really not be a good agent. Well, what happens? They leave the business instead of leaning in and recognizing that there's other things that define their success.
Yeah.
Concept came to me a few years ago. I was sitting on a panel with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And the question was, what is your definition of success? And I said, I control my calendar from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep. And to me, that flexibility of schedule is my definition of success. And I started to kind of think about that more and more in the context of our industry. And I started to ask other people, like, what is your definition of success? So I think empowering women to, one, show them that a definition of success that has been put upon you is naturally hard to hit.
Yeah.
So first, give them permission to define their own definition of success, and then give them the tools. And this is where the confidence and the empowerment comes in, to show them how to achieve their level of success, how to take that goal and break it down into manageable day-to-day steps.
It's such a good point too, because in our industry and a lot of sales industry, any sales industry, right? It's just driven by like, you're successful if your numbers are X, right? But even in our business and a lot of these sales, there's so many different nuances to all of this, right? Like, for example, there's an agent here who's lovely. I love her. Fabulous. She sells, sales volume wise, $200 million in sales a year, right?
Lady.
Well, because she has a contract with a production builder and she lists every single one of those homes, but she does not get a full 3% commission or she gets a flat fee per home. So her GCI, her income is totally different than somebody else who might be selling 100 million. And so success is different there, right? Like I could look at her and be like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to $200 million by the time I'm X, by the time I'm 45 or whatever it is. But quite honestly, I might be making more money than she is in this definition of success, right? And I think in this business and sales and with social media and whatever, like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there's a lot of concepts about what success. Like I'm continuing to build my business. I've built my business pretty exponentially in the last 3 years. And I've said this now a billion times, but I hired a director of ops. I've got an agent, blah, blah, blah. And there are people in my sphere that are haters, quite honestly. And they were like, how can you afford, not to me, they would never say it to my face. How could she afford to hire a director of ops? And I'm like, how could I not? How could I afford to not? Right? Like, and I think people look at businesses differently, right? I look at this as such an amazing investment in my business that I'm stupid if I don't do this because whatever. But we all are looking at success so differently, but all based on these, like you said, these weird preset criteria.
That's right.
And I'm just like, what the hell, people? Like, and then there's just part of me, I'm like, yeah, I'll just let me live, okay? Like, let me live and feed my kids and go to
Stop hating on me. Well, I will say, and I say this a lot in my coaching, like I'm a holistic coach. And what I mean by that is if you're not feeling great about yourself and your personal life isn't in a wonderful place or the place you want it to be, it's going to impact your business. And vice versa. If your business isn't where you want it to be, it's going to impact your personal life. So I think defining success based on different buckets is very healthy.
Yeah.
I feel success because my marriage is solid. I feel success because I'm a good mom. I feel success because I have the time that I can control. I feel success because I make an income that allows me to have this lifestyle. I feel, yeah. But in my coaching, I have to train people to think that way because the definition of success has been so tainted by the industry and by all the smoke and mirrors that you mentioned.
Well, and I'm thinking a lot about alignment as we have this conversation and like that forced measure of success, like that measuring, that ruler, that measuring stick. If that is a measuring stick that's not important or not in alignment with you, you'll never feel good long term, holistically, completely. You might be like, oh, cool, I hit it.
That's right.
But yeah, like also I haven't slept a full night and, whatever it might be. It really does need to be like, what is your measuring stick? Gosh, that's another interview question that as we like sit here is like, for me, for my husband, for any role, it's like in that interview, like define success for yourself. What does that look like?
Really great question.
I'm actually just sitting here thinking like my team, I'm like over the next with all my time and energy that I have left, I want to send that like a weekly text of like, this week, like define success. What does success look like for you? And then next week, like, okay, what is success here? Or like just kind of keep the conversation going like week to week to start conversation. I'm on to something.
One of the
here.
things
It's
that I
coming.
do, which you can totally take, I do this in all of my coaching groups that I run. I challenge the women every week when we're together to give us a win. I call it celebrate your win. And the celebration of the win is the goal that's met, or it's the thing that they're really proud of in that week. And I think doing that with my team too is something that will help them, to your point, Cheryl, of like keeping them in line of like, what was great for you this week? And if they didn't have something to celebrate, there's always something to celebrate. Like you'll find the win.
Right.
And I get that concept because I was not a person that celebrated wins along the way. I was very typical real estate agent in that I was always on to the next transaction. One would close, I'd be on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. I think that's what allowed me that drive is sort of what pushed me to build my business to where it was. But
Yeah.
looking back, I wish I had taken a moment to just acknowledge I'd achieved a goal. I made somebody's life better by helping them buy this house. Like these were wins to be celebrated. And I think that's so important.
I've noticed something about myself forever before real estate. Like I'd hit a goal and like it was almost like anticlimactic. The part that's more exciting for me is like seeing the progress and like approaching the goal feels so much more exciting to me than actually hitting it. It's the weirdest. Maybe it's not
You're a
weird. It sounds
true
like everybody's
entrepreneur.
everybody's nodding their heads, so I'm
Like,
not alone. I can
Yes.
see.
It's like, now what? It's you get to the goal and you're like, it is the what's next. It's what's the next deal? What's the next project? What's the next thing? Who do I help next? And I do appreciate, Elizabeth, that you said that like sometimes that is part of getting to the place where you need to be, because I think there is this interesting thing right now that we see, and I think it's positive, but it's like, this kind of anti-hustle culture, which is fine, right? But I think there is a little bit of this, you have to be like a fucking monster sometimes, like in the best way to get to, meaning hungry. When you talked about like hungry and
I think you
eager and
just
like,
need to want it. You need
yes,
to want it. You need to see the goal and be like, God, number one, I can do that.
yeah,
And then how am I going to do it?
yeah. And how
And
do I
then
not
what
be a
happens if I
psychotic
don't
person?
do it? Yeah. Like
I'm like
Like,
hearing our vision to reality play out here again. Colleen and I
know.
do an annual vision to reality series where we like walk people through like creating the vision board, but then like taking that vision board and like breaking it down, like you said, into
Yes.
monthly, daily, hourly tasks to actually get across the finish line and achieve that vision. And I'm like, listen to us just beat that into the ground over and over here. That is
And I
like,
think it needs to
Go
be
ahead.
repeated over and over again, right? Because like I'm in a season right now where I'm super busy and it's really awesome. But I am also like, I said to my husband last night, I was just like, I'm so busy, and I am trying to frame this in a very gratitude based and thankful way, rather than being an absolute monster. Like, but also being like, this is what I want. These are the things I want to be busy. I want to be doing this. I'm very grateful for all the work that I have. I am very, but I went to this networking event last night that I felt like was important for me to go to. And I met some great people, but it meant that I was, out until 8 o'clock at night and came back, and he had to do all the laundry and pick up on some stuff. And I just said to him, I was like, I can start to feel, and I've seen agents, high level agents, where they become these just working machines. And I can very easily see now how that happens. If
Oh
you,
my gosh, of course. Because you can start just from experience. Like you can take yourself to burnout without
yeah,
even realizing how close you are to
yeah,
that burn. And so I've found that over the years, it's so critical for me to carve into my day moments to think. I know this sounds so ridiculous,
No, you're speaking my language.
but like just taking some time in the calendar to just be with my thoughts, where the creativity comes out, where like the next idea comes out. Because I found when I was really in the throes of building my business, I was doing exactly what you said, Colleen, like one to the next, to the next, to the next. And then I'd look back and be like, well, what did I even do this week? Because
Yeah.
I've just been running nonstop. And so I
Okay.
really
I have
am.
a question though. What do you
Yeah.
do during that time while you're thinking? Like, are you
So
walking? Are you in the shower? Are
Good.
you, what are you
No,
doing?
no. Yeah, it's a good question. It is a good question because it is kind of weird to carve out time to think because our culture doesn't really do that. I'm a big writer. I write a newsletter twice a week for women called the Toolkit for Confident Agents. I love to write. It's something that I'm just like thrilled to do. I do a lot of journaling. So typically when I want to think, I'll bring a notebook and I'll go somewhere,
Okay.
whether it's the local coffee shop. Sometimes I'll sit outside. I'll just change the scenery. And
Yes.
that kind of triggers in me creativity.
Yeah.
Um, I do a lot of thinking. I take a walk every day at 4:30. I just have a standing appointment on my calendar. It's called a sanity walk. And sometimes I will not even take my phone. I will just go for a walk and nobody can reach me. And I do a lot of thinking during that time. So I think I had to train myself to think, if that makes sense. Like I had to train
No.
myself to trigger my brain to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm salivating as you describe this. Truly, I'm like, oh my God, I need to set an
You
alarm.
can do
Like
it. Do
that
it.
half hour before I go pick up my kids needs to be a walk.
That's what I do. I walk and then I'll get my children and I protect that appointment like it is a client appointment, right? You're not going to show up late for a client appointment. You're not
Yeah.
going to film a hot mess to a client appointment. You're going to
Well,
show up
speak for
for that.
yourself. Depends on the client.
And so I've found, and I've learned all of this because I never used to do it.
Yeah.
I never did these things. I was on the verge of burnout all the time.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm actually much more productive. I'm certainly happier. I'm healthier. I sleep better and I'm a better mom and a better wife and a better team lead and a better team coach. Everybody who relies on me gets the best version of me because I put myself higher on my totem pole. And I think as a
Yeah.
mom, like it's hard to always make yourself number one, especially when you have small kids, right? Like
Yeah.
they're losing their mind. You can't be like, I'm going to take a walk. Like they're not. You're going to help them through whatever crisis they're in. But just by being cognizant of it has been a world of difference for me.
Yeah.
There's no
That
words
sounds
left.
great. There's no words.
We're-
I'm like, I need a walk. I need to go walk right now. But I think it really is.
Ask yourself, though, Colleen, like if you take that walk,
Yeah.
what is the worst thing that is going to happen? Is your business going to fall apart? Is
No.
your family going to get into some trouble? Like, are you going to lose all your money? Are you like, oh,
Yeah. I think
start
you're
giving
right.
yourself permission.
It is. And you know what's interesting is that I'm a pretty self-aware person. So like I can see the psycho happening. Like I can see it. And
That's
I'm
the
like,
first step in fixing it.
yeah, yeah. And what I'm recognizing now is like I had a team. I was on a team before I went on my own, and there were there were so many amazing things that I learned from that woman, good and bad, right? And there's so many things now as a team lead, producing more, blah blah blah, that I can have empathy for why and understand why she was that way, but also understand that I don't want to be that way.
Yes.
And I think that's the tricky part in this situation because I am super driven. I do need to, when you talk about like I do need to sell, right? Like I do need
Sure.
to do all these things, and I am doing those things. And I just said to my husband again last night, I was like, I just want to be successful, and he's like, Colleen, you're wildly successful. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, but more.
It takes people who know you the most to tell you the things that you don't see yourself.
Yeah, but it is an interesting career that we're in where it is never enough. It's never enough. It's never enough. It can be, and I think having a coach like you or having, you know, partners or having support, it is so important to and I think I said very honestly this year, I did a lot of coaching last year and I'm like a coach whore. I love a coach.
Me too.
I love a coach. I'll take 47 coaches at one time. But this year I said very intentionally, like, I don't want to I don't want to be coach anymore because I need to produce. Like I need to implement. And I felt like I was hiding behind coaching. Right.
Right.
But here I am, Q2. And I'm like, oh, I signed up for another program, and then I'm like, hey, I should hire Elizabeth. I need to go work with, you know, like. But I see how important these coaches are. But I think coaches can be a dime a dozen. But what I'm seeing in you, and what I'm seeing in a lot of the women that we are interviewing, is this intentional finding a match, and this person who can really duplicate and understand and can coach you through the things that you are going through in those moments. And I think that's the difference between like just having a coach to have a coach, or having a big name coach because you like, okay, well now I did, you know, not to, like, who cares? He's never going to listen. Like, I have no interest in coaching with Tom Ferry ever, never, zero. Right? People love that, but I know that there are people who take that just because, right?
Well, because it's proven. And so they think by aligning with that they will become that level of success too. But I think your point is very well taken. Coaching has to be a match. It has to be that your coach and you are on similar paths. And I think the best coaches are the ones who see themselves in the people that they're coaching.
Yeah.
That makes sense, where it's like I coach a lot of women in my signature program, The Confident Agent. And these are women who have transitioned out of corporate life into building six-figure real estate businesses. That was me 12 years ago. I left a six-figure salary. I had no idea how to build a sales business. I had no idea. Now I've created that system. I've made the mistakes and I'm coaching those women behind. Or, you know, I coach women like yourselves who are building teams, who learn from my mistakes. And that's, I think, the difference between doing a program that is formulated or doing sort of an individualized approach to coaching.
I think other important points about coaching is like you need to be matched with someone that you can hear, because we can listen all day long, but are they getting through? Are they speaking to you where you are today? So like who my coach is today, I may need someone very different in 2 years from today. I may need to hear something in a different way. And I'm going to throw Rachel under the bus here with Susie. You know, forever, I was like eating everything Susie set up, and what Susie said is the Bible. I still do that. But Rachel, I was having a lot of trouble bringing her along with me. And now Rachel's in a different spot in life. And now she's coaching with Susie. And like, she's hearing everything. It's all getting through. It's like the right time in her life to implement these things, where when it was for me, it wasn't for her. So it's just so interesting. And it's like how we can be on a coaching call or like have a speaker in front of us on 6 a.m.ers or whatever the thing is. And like, you can hear something 15 different ways. And then all of a sudden today it clicks for you. It was said in a way that resonates, or you were actually ready to hear it.
Or you were in that position finally, right? Like you can hear so many times, like, go for a walk, and you're like, yeah, whatever, lady. Or then you're like in psycho monster mode, and I'm like, I need to go for a walk. Elizabeth said so. You know what I mean? Like those are like, it's so specific. And I think that's such a good point, Cheryl. Like it's coach, it's time specific, it's season specific.
Yeah, it's place you are on your journey. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And I'll add one point to that.
Yeah.
You have to be ready to hear it, but you have to also have a coach who's ready to hear you and can actually hear the things that you're saying. And when I say that, I mean 9 times out of 10, and we know this with our sales client, the things that people are saying, it's probably a couple layers below that of what's really going on. And a really good coach will be able to hear what you're saying and then ask you questions to really get to the crux of that. So I think it's a combination of all of those things.
So true. Okay, so now that everyone's in love with you, like I am.
Oh, God.
how do they find you? Like, if somebody was listening to this and they're like, I'm a realtor. I want you to coach me. Like, where do they find you? How do they get you?
So my website is just my name, elizabethconvery.com. You can sign up. The best way to really get in touch is to sign up for my newsletter. I run a newsletter. I write twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. It's all for building confidence in the real estate business. It's a lot of things. I talk about family. I talk about coaching scenarios. My programs, one of the programs is on the website. I also do private coaching, and I have a invite-only mastermind for more seasoned women in real estate.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. Elizabeth.convery is the handle. Definitely follow along.
Well, get ready to have two of your biggest fan stalkers ever.
No, but you know what? The best way to get in touch with me is just to reach out. Send me a note. I will always write back. I mean, myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if Tom Ferry writes back himself, but I do.
Yeah. Well, whatever. We're not calling him anymore. Maybe we are. I don't know. I'm not.
Poor Tom.
Elizabeth, thank you. And thank you again for being here and sharing your wisdom and just your joy with us. This has been so fun.
Thank you for having me. It's been so fun to meet you both. I hope we'll get to do it in person at some point.
Yes.
All right, you guys, everybody have a fab week.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Bye. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.